Hello, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Could we please have a roll call, Clerk Allison?
Trustee Donnersberger.
Here.
Trustee Eck.
Present.
Trustee Farrell Mayer. Oh, she's absent, isn't she? Yes. Okay. Trustee Kennedy.
Present.
Trustee Metz.
Here.
Trustee O'Loughlin.
Here.
And I see Mayor Hinshaw here.
Here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. If we could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, I would like to welcome everybody. Lou, you get any chair you want tonight. And let you know, Lou, that we broadcast on Comcast Channel 6, Facebook Live, and YouTube. And of course, we record the video and put it on our website. First item on the agenda, and the agendas are up here, Lou, if you didn't get one, is the mayor's report. First item is mask use at the podium. After the November board meeting, I talked with a few trustees and staff about public comments at our meetings, and going forward, we would ask that everybody who comes to the podium keep their mask on. So I will do my best to remind people if that happens, but please, any trustee or John or Pat, you are free to say something if that happens. Chris, did you have?
Can we also ask that people identify give us their name and their address when they come up for public comment?
I don't think we can ask, but I don't think they have to do it. John?
We can ask, they're not required to provide the address.
Okay.
Okay, and on to the report. The Village Sidewalk Master Plan, there are four main areas. Acacia Drive, the new sidewalk was recently added on the southern part. The northern part will be next year. The connections of this new sidewalk to Wolf Road are planned to be done when and if a sidewalk along Wolf Road becomes a part of the Cook County road projects. There will be a new connection next year from Acacia Drive to Blackhawk Park. Two others that are in the phase one are both county roads, and that's Plainfield Road and Wolf Road. We expect to have alternatives for Wolf Roads available in 2022 for resident review and comment. And Joliet Road, we're still working with our legislators in the village of Countryside for a sidewalk on both sides of Joliet in the village. Acacia Drive, the northern section of Acacia Drive will be started early next year. The landscaping and finishing touches of all of Acacia Drive will be done after all the road work is completed, and this board is committed to making Acacia Drive look as good or better than it was when the project started. I-294 Tollway update. The on-ramp from Joliet Road to the 294 is back in operation. And please note again that next summer there will be a sound wall taken down on the southern portion of the section between Plainfield and Joliet. Last item is the community survey, and Andy may have more on this, but the village is seeking your input, so please take the survey either online or via paper. And if you do paper, you can drop it off at the Village Hall or in the silver collection box out front. And lastly, I would like to wish everybody here, Lou and staff, of course, and all trustees, and Pat, John, a happy holidays and the best for a good start to the new year. Thank you. With that, we are on to public comments. Anybody here like to make a public comment? Lou, I'll look around. Oh, Andy has a public comment that we got, or maybe several, it looks like.
8.
8.
I'll summarize some. A lot of them are related. But first public comment is from Dale Holmquist, saying on November 1, there were 359 cases of COVID in IHP, As of today, December 9th, there are 481 reported cases. That's an unprecedented increase of 34% in just 1 month. COVID has been rapidly spreading in the community. Many residents may not be aware that IHP has been experiencing a high level of transmission for over a month now. A high transmission flag is noted on the IDPH website for our village. These statistics should be posted. And then all of the rest of our public comments that we received are related to a dog park a potential dog park. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in favor and 1 against. And that's about it.
And again, the dog park came up, I believe, the first time at the breakfast at Wilshire Green. I think a resident there suggested the dog park, and I think that was the first that we heard of that. Thank you, Andy. Okay, we're on to the consent agenda. Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as established.
I'll second.
Thank you, Brenda and Sean. John, do you have anything to update? Oh, Chris, the financials, yes?
Sure, would you like a financial report?
Yes, please, Chris.
Okay. For the Village of Indian Head Park for the month ending November 2021. Cash on hand as of October 31st was $3.8 million. Revenue less warrants for November 2021, 971,000. And our ending balance as of November 30th was $2.9 million.
Thank you. John, are you going to talk about the motor fuel tax?
Yes, there is an item approving a resolution committing funds to the motor fuel tax. That's for expenditures. The village receives money from the motor fuel tax fund, and we have to formally commit those dollars received to projects to be spent using motor fuel tax dollars, and it's a form that we submit to the Illinois Department of Transportation. We have to do this every 1 to 2 years, and it's part of the cycle right now. So it's purely an administrative move on our part. And then the other item is, by law, we have to establish the meeting schedule for the upcoming year, and we do this every December. There's a resolution in the packet authorizing the meeting schedule for 2022.
And if I'm not mistaken, the summary is board meetings are on the second Thursday of the month. The planning and zoning is the first Tuesday, and police and fire commission is first Thursday every quarter. Does that sound right? Whatever it is, we have the sheet in our board packet.
And we will put that online, and it's on the window of Village Hall.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Clerk Allison, could we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Trustee O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Trustee Kennedy.
Aye.
Trustee Farrell, oh, I'm sorry. Let's get her absent here. Trustee Eck
Yes.
and Trustee Donnersberger
Aye.
and Trustee Metz.
Aye.
All right, that's been approved. Thank you. Next item is camera. This is not for vote, but it's for discussion. Is this, Brenda, is this you?
Yes.
And please remember anybody with microphone, thank you.
So for the installation of the cameras throughout the village is the board's #1 goal for the current budget year due to the rapidly evolving needs of the public safety. Going through the process, we are discovering there is no one camera that fits all scenarios. There are 2 different types of cameras, a fixed video camera for incidents and an LPR or automatic license plate reader cameras. The village received bids for 3 vendors, and the list has been narrowed to 2. The formal review and criteria is being gathered until the end of the month. Oh, wait a second. Hold on 1 second. Once a vendor has been approved, the reseller or integrator will have a team led by a project manager that will develop the final equipment needs, testing plan, and implementation process for the project, and the vendor will have a project manager and technical support team to support Indian Head Park. The plan is to make a formal recommendation to the village board for consideration at the January meeting. That's all I have.
Thank you. John, anything else to add, or Chief Stelter?
I have a question.
Yeah, Charlie.
Brenda, at one point, you were thinking that perhaps bringing cameras in staged over several years might be something to consider rather than having them all installed at the first, right up front. Is that still being looked at?
That is still being looked at, yes.
I would add that I think at the meeting we had, it seemed to be the consensus of the team is to go smaller, and maybe even a couple vendors since we're going smaller, but haven't got there yet. Steve, did you have anything you want to add on the project? You don't have to. I just thought I'd give you the
No.
opportunity. Okay.
I'm just here in case anybody has any.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next item, the property tax levy ordinance 2021-20.
I would like to make a motion to pass ordinance 2021-20, an ordinance establishing the tax levy for 2022.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Chris and Brenda. Any discussion? John, are you walking us through, or is it all self-explanatory?
I will walk you through it just in case if anybody has any questions. So at the November meeting, the board established by resolution the tax amount to be levied for to be collected next year. And then the ordinance has the amounts varied throughout the various departments of the village, so that in case if we have a tax shortfall, we can just reduce budgets in those respective departments accordingly. Very rarely do we not ever receive all of our tax levy or a vast majority of it, so we never have to implement reductions throughout the departments. I tried to spread out the pain fairly evenly among the departments, so that's why you have different numbers in the various departments. So other than that, the tax levy is, as we've done in past years, we will submit it to the county by next week, and we will collect our taxes next year.
Thank you. Oh,
Then the item after that, the property tax limitation resolution. In the event that we don't get all of our tax money, that resolution tells the county clerk to reduce items in certain areas where we are fairly well funded. So it's a technical piece that has to follow the ordinance.
okay, we call that a 2-for-1. Any questions or comments from the board? I don't see any. Clerk Allison, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Okay, Trustee Metz.
Aye.
Trustee O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Trustee Kennedy.
Aye.
Trustee Eck.
Aye.
And Trustee Dornersborg.
Aye.
Thank you. That's passed.
That has been approved. Thank you. The next item,
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to pass Resolution 08-2021, a resolution establishing the property tax extension limitations for the tax levy year 2022.
I'll second.
thank you, Chris and Sean. John gave us a brief overview. Any questions or comments from the board? I don't see any. Clerk Allison, could we have a roll call vote?
All right, Trustee Metz.
Aye.
Trustee Kennedy.
Aye.
Trustee O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Trustee Eck.
Aye.
Trustee Donnersberg.
Aye.
And Trustee Farrell Mayor is absent.
And that has been approved. Thank you. Next item. Ordinance 2021-21. Would somebody like to make a
I think
motion?
that's in my corner. I'd like to make a motion to pass ordinance 2021-21, an ordinance granting a special use to 6537 Laurel Avenue.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Thank you, Aileen.
I'd like to mention before the vote that this particular shed is a new installation shed as opposed to one that's grandfathered and has been there for a long period of time, and that the Planning and Zoning Board wanted to make sure that the shed was in a buildable area, and it now is.
Any questions or comments in the board packet? We had a summary memo from Charlie, and Andy also had a memo. Any questions or comments from the board?
No.
I don't see or hear any. Another roll call vote, please, Clerk Allison.
Trustee Eck,
Aye?
Trustee Darnersberger,
Aye.
Trustee Kennedy,
Aye.
Trustee Metz,
Aye.
and Trustee O'Loughlin.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Next one is,
That's been approved. Next one, thank you, Charlie.
I make a motion to pass ordinance 2021-22, an ordinance granting special use to 1714 65th Street.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Charlie and Brenda. Very similar. Any questions, comments from the board? Andy or Charlie?
This is a grandfathered shed. It's been there for several years, several decades, and that was taken into consideration by the Planning and Zoning Board, as are the rest of them on here, but I'll make mention each time.
Any? I don't hear any, see any. Clerk Allison, another quick roll call,
Yes,
please.
Trustee Eck,
Aye?
Trustee Donnersberger.
Aye.
Trustee O'Loughlin,
Aye.
Trustee Metz,
Aye.
Trustee Kennedy,
Aye.
and Farrell Mayor is absent.
All right, that's been approved. Thank you all. Charlie?
Yes, I make a motion to pass ordinance 2021-23, an ordinance granting special use to 1724 65th Place.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Charlie and Brenda.
This is also a shed that's been there for several decades, and the Planning and Zoning Committee considered that when making their recommendation.
Any comments, questions? I don't see any. Okay, Clerk Allison.
Trustee Eck,
Aye.
Trustee O'Loughlin,
Aye.
Trustee Metz,
Aye.
Trustee Kennedy,
Aye.
Trustee Donnersberger,
Aye.
and Trustee Farrell Mayor is absent.
That's
So
been
that's
approved. Thank you.
Can I go to the next one?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion to pass ordinance 2021-24, an ordinance granting special use to 1527 65th Place.
I'll second.
Thank you, Charlie and Sean.
Yeah, this is also a shed that's been in place for several decades, and the Planning and Zoning Committee considered that.
All right, ready?
Any questions, anybody? Yes, Clerk
Trustee
Allison.
Donnersberger,
Aye.
Trustee Eck,
Aye?
Trustee Kennedy,
Aye.
Trustee Metz,
Aye.
Trustee O'Loughlin,
Aye.
Trustee Farrell Mayor is absent.
All right, that's been approved. Next one.
I make a motion to pass ordinance 2021-25, an ordinance granting a special use to 1517 65th Place.
I'll second it.
This
Thank
is-
you, Charlie and Eileen.
This is also a shed that's been in place for several decades, and the Planning and Zoning Committee considered that.
Questions, comments? Okay, Clerk Allison.
Trustee Eck,
Aye.
Trustee O'Loughlin,
Aye.
Trustee Metz,
Aye.
Trustee Kennedy,
Aye.
Trustee Donnersberger.
Aye.
And once again, Farrell Mayor is absent.
That's been approved. We're on a good roll. Next one.
Okay, this is a little different than what you have. I make a motion to table ordinance 2021-26, an ordinance granting a special use to 6557 Howard Avenue to be continued to the February meeting.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Charlie and Eileen. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, there's a provision in this particular ordinance in regards to the standard items, but there was also an amendment that related to this ordinance not being rebuilt, and that I believe that the Board of Trustees need to provide direction to Planning and Zoning. There was a lot of discussion back and forth, and I believe they could use some direction as to what can be rebuilt. There was also a lot of question in regards to hardship, and my recommendation outside of this motion is to ask staff to prepare some guidance for the Board of Trustees at the next meeting so that we can discuss both of these issues prior to actually voting on this particular ordinance. Can staff comment if they're comfortable with doing that?
We are.
I'm confused. Did the zoning board vote on this one?
Yes, they did.
And how did they vote?
They voted, there were two parts to the motion. One part was the standard, which was screening and paying for mailing costs. There was an amendment to that motion that spoke specifically to not allowing that shed to be rebuilt should it ever come down. This provision is different than any of the other provisions that we have on our ordinances regarding shed or our licenses regarding sheds. So that's the first time that this has been introduced, and suggests that that guidance is needed in regards to that particular issue, Chris.
I still didn't, did they vote? I guess I didn't catch what they did.
Yes, they voted on both parts of that.
And they,
Yes, and the first part was 6-0, the second part was 5-1 in favor of doing that.
oh,
And I
okay.
believe that the rebuilt issue is one that needs further guidance and discussion, and which is why I'm requesting that we table the ordinance at this time and have an opportunity to discuss both hardship and rebuilding, and be able to get the guidance from staff in regards to being consistent going forward, because we're going to have a lot of these coming up.
Will the zoning board be discussing that, or is that for us or both of us, or what?
The zoning board has already voted on this matter, but now you have the opportunity to vote or to table the matter to vote at a later date, which is the motion on the
But
table.
Charlie's saying they're looking for guidance on.
I think they
what a
want further
hardship
guidance
is.
on what really constitutes a hardship, and they want the board's interpretation.
They want us to tell them. They don't.
Correct.
They're not going to tell us what they think it is.
They would like guidance from the board.
Okay.
John, can I say something really quick? So, as Trustee Eck was saying, so a lot of the discussion at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting on Tuesday was specifically to this property, and the reason why this amendment was included on this one and not the others was because the majority of the commission felt that this house did not meet the standards of hardship, meaning that it didn't merit having a shed, whereas the other ones were smaller homes and they needed the storage. However, they still recommended approval of it because the ordinance on sheds gives such great weight to sheds that have been there for a long time, and this shed was probably put up during the Kennedy administration. So that's why they recommended approval, and that's kind of why we need some, that's why they want some guidance on what a hardship is going forward.
To add a little, at the meeting, they talked about potentially having the homeowner take the shed down when he sells, or having the shed come down as part of a sale. And I believe the homeowner agreed to that. And I don't know, David, if you have a picture of that house still in your deck?
Yeah, David, would you go to number 6 shed? That's the shed. Will you actually go to number 6 aerial photo?
And you can see that that has a 2-car garage, and the owner remodeled it at some point, not recently, but I don't know when, added a second floor, and that's when the garage was expanded. So it's a little different than the other ones that we have talked about.
And I think I think the issue of rebuilding as it relates to existing sheds, not new sheds, but existing sheds. This is the first time it was introduced. Does this apply to all the sheds? Should it apply to all the sheds? And why is this one particularly being singled out? And that's why, since this is the first time this has come up, I've asked that it be tabled at this point in time so that we can more clearly discuss these issues.
David, can you go back to the shed picture? There was some discussion about the condition of the shed. I believe the homeowner talked about having to repair the roof a couple times since he's been on the property. So I don't know, I got the impression from the discussion that the shed was older and more disrepair. I don't know if that's the right word to use. But there was concern of that shed compared to some of the others that were brightly painted and, looked to be spiffy, if that's a good word. And I don't know that this one was in that same category.
There were one or two others that were in need of a coat of paint and redecorating, and the homeowner at that time, with a different shed, not this one, pointed out that about 17, 18 months ago, she'd gotten a letter from the village indicating that that shed may have to come down, at which point she deferred any maintenance on the shed, and once the shed's approved, then she's going to restain it and spiff it up. But some of this has been held off as a result of earlier actions on part of the village relative to sheds.
Did this owner talk about spiffing this one up and painting and taking care of it?
I don't recall that was come up. I think that some of the questions on the part of the planning and zoning in regards to taking down or not rebuilding are questions that we need to provide some direction to planning and zoning. In my view, those questions and the resultant answers were out of step with our views as to what we wanted to do with existing sheds. Not new sheds, but existing sheds.
And I believe the homeowner also said there was some sentimental value to the shed. I got the name George or Georgie, that maybe he had built it or something.
Yeah, I think what it was the previous homeowner was a friend of his, and the previous homeowner was one of the original residents of the subdivision back in the 1950s or 60s.
All right, any other comments or questions? Or
Well, I think it's a good idea moving forward to define what hardship is anyway across the board, so we can make sure we're equitable. So I agree with it.
I agree with the definition from the board, but I don't know that we'll be able to define everything. Yeah. Any other thoughts, comments? Okay, we have a motion to table this for next month.
To the February meeting.
Oh.
Make a comment?
Sure, Lou.
Oh, talking about hardship, then one thing you could probably put down is that we only got, in his case, he's got a 2-car garage. But what aggravated me while I'm here tonight too, because since you brought it up, I didn't know if you would or not, was there was 3 other homes in right down my street there that have 2-car garages. But the hardship part comes with the lawnmowers, the bicycles, all that equipment. So, that's why we all use our sheds. And he'll fix it up. The guy, you see his house, and he doesn't have a basement either. And who wants to put lawnmowers in a basement? Or lawn furniture, basically. But would probably be one of your hardship things, maybe, is, because you don't have room.
Thank you, Lou.
Sure.
All right, any other comments, questions? Okay, so we're tabling until February, is that right, Pat?
Yes.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Okay, let's see, trustee Eck,
Aye.
trustee Donnersberger,
Aye.
trustee Kennedy,
Aye.
trustee Metz,
No.
no, okay, and trustee O'Loughlin.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that has been tabled to February. We are at reports. Trustees, I'll start with Eileen. Anything to report?
Well, the economic
Is your mic on?
Sorry.
Thank you. Sorry.
The Economic Development Committee continues to explore ways in which to upgrade the facade and the overall look of the triangle. We've gotten a bid that's somewhat high, but they did break it down into little pieces for us. And now the various members are out looking for funding sources. I'd also like to get another bid, maybe from a local builder to see if we can get the costs down. That's about where we are.
Thank you. Trustee Kennedy?
Just a brief comment. We had a meeting a week ago, kind of a public works, and I think Brenda going forward, we're going to be talking more about. We had a kind of a kickoff to a community garden idea that we've been throwing around, and we had a couple of residents that brought some really good ideas to the table. A couple of guys from Public Works were there discussing locations and what we're going to put in and different things. And it was a very, very, very high-level discussion. So we're going to fine-tune things as time goes on. So be prepared to hear about those ideas. And we'll look forward to getting some gardening in the village.
Thank you. Trustee Metz?
No report.
Thank you. Trustee O'Loughlin?
Sure. The Village of Indian Head Park Holiday Festival will be at Black Hawk Park on Sunday, December 19th at between 11 and 1. At the event will be Santa and his live reindeer, candy canes, Christmas parade in the park, music and holiday cheer, crafts for the kids, and the Kelly Joy O'Loughlin Memorial Foundation will be collecting food for a local food pantry. So bring a food item to donate at the event. Items needed are canned fruit, pasta and pasta sauce, cereal, jelly, mac and cheese, flavored rice, noodles, canned veggies, as well as canned soup.
What day and time was that?
It is Sunday, December 19th at 11 to 1 p.m.
Thank you. Trustee Eck?
Was there last year and enjoyed the reindeer. It was a very festive event.
It
Thank you.
was very
Other than
nice.
that, no report, sir.
Thank you. Village Clerk, anything to report? Village Treasurer is out. Village Attorney?
No report, and we don't have a request for a closed session later in the meeting tonight.
Thank you. Village Administrator?
This is the time of the year where we start working on the budget for the new year and goals for the new year. So things you would like to see the village do in the upcoming fiscal year, which starts May 1st of next year. So please put your thinking hats on and find out what the direction you'd like the village to go. Staff will be doing the same thing, and we'll be presenting our recommendations to you as well. So things like signage in the village. Should we look to have a sign at the northeast corner of Wolf and Joliet in the state of Illinois property? New sign in front of Village Hall, Heritage Center, things of that nature. So whatever your heart's desire, let's bring it to the table and start talking about it. At the same time, our budget time frame is as follows. In January, you'll get a formal update as to where we are during this fiscal year, where we expect to end up, and what we expect to have as cash available for next fiscal year. In February, we will have the first reading of the new budget. At the March meeting, we will have the second reading and the public hearing for the budget, and then in April, we will pass the budget for the new year. That's the budget time frame. So that's the extent of my report, unless you have a question of me.
Part of the budgeting process, if I understand it, John, is that the committee will determine maybe discretionary money or money that the village board could set aside for goals, some rough number, 100,000, 200, whatever it is. Is that correct? And then the board can use that number to help look at the goals that they have as potential to see what they want to do. And you mentioned a couple potential goals, a new sign in front of the village hall, sign on the corner. I've heard in the last year potentially a electronic sign at the Heritage Center or somewhere else. I've also heard ideas of Acacia Drive to make sure that we get that landscaped if we need to. We don't know it yet or not if we will. Same for Wolf Road. I've heard of electric at Sacagawea Park. Like to the gazebo that could be used for Christmas lights. I've heard an idea about buying a lot on the end of Blackhawk. I want to say it's about 6533. It's a vacant lot to use as a little park as one potential idea. I've heard of more community events like more movie in the park or maybe concert in the park. I've heard of a better sound system for the village board. and improvements at Blackhawk Park. So this is not the extensive list. There can be more, but I wanted to run through really quickly what I've heard. And if the board has ideas in the next coming months, let me know. And at some point, like we did last year, but for the newer members, we get a list and everybody gets a vote. Every trustee gets a vote, and we somewhat sort them, and then we figure out, what we can afford. Maybe we do 3, maybe we do 6, or something like in the case of Acacia Drive, maybe we budget money, but we don't need it. So anyway, we kind of figured out there is no set rule to how we do that. So John, thank you for letting me add on to that. Assistant Village Administrator, sorry, Andy.
Yeah, no problem. A few things to report. First, leaf vacuuming has been completed for the season. They finished on Tuesday of this week. I have some numbers about the collection. So for the first pass in November, it was a small one. They collected 4.2 tons of leaves. The second pass, they collected 38.52 tons of leaves. And the third pass, they collected 58.06 tons of leaves. In total, 100.79 tons of leaves. In other news, as we talked about a little bit last meeting, the village is working with Simplicity, which is an app to provide information to residents. And I just wanted to let everyone know that Simplicity has released a new feature in which you were able to report a concern or a problem or offer an idea to the village. And it's pretty neat. You can actually take a picture of something like a pothole, and you can mark the location of it, and we'll receive it in the office and be able to see it and reply back to the resident. So I would encourage all residents to sign up for it. It's super easy to set up, and it's a great way to stay in touch with what's going on with the village. Also, the administration is starting a redesign, which is included in our contract with our website platform. It's to kind of update the website some, so any trustees or any residents who have any ideas on how we can make the website better, work better, please let us know, and we can include that in the redesign process. And then finally, just touching a little more on the village survey. So we have received so far 225 surveys, and the deadline, which was originally the 3rd of December, we've extended to the end of December because we want to give everybody the maximum amount of time to reply. And the results of the survey will be discussed at the next communications committee, and then will be reported to the board at probably the January meeting. And will also be included in the January edition of the smoke signals for all the residents to see. That's all I have.
Thank you. Department heads. Chief Stelter, anything to report?
Good evening, everybody. Just a couple of things. Number one, recently taken 2 of my officers who serve as detectives when needed, Officer Carmi and Officer Kassain, and I have put them onto a task force with the Cook County Sheriff and the Chicago Police Department for a carjacking task force. And they went out for the first time on Monday, and they had a riot, and they made couple of arrests. They got 1 stolen car, arrested a subject who was in possession of a gun. And this is a new task force, and if there's any indication what happens on Monday, it's going to be pretty successful out there. So it's something good. I like to be able to offer officers here these opportunities to not only advance their career, enhance their skills as police officers, and then get them out of the mundane day-to-day patrol operations here. So seem to be very successful. I'm kind of doing it as an experimental thing, is to see how it goes exactly. And so far, so good on the first time. This is something where they're going to go out 2 or 3 days a month only. It's not like they're going every week or whatever. So, if they could, barring they can make it, there may be times where they won't be able to go, but for the most part, it'll be a 2 or 3 day a month process. And the only other thing I have is a couple of work anniversaries for a couple of officers. On this past Tuesday, Lou D'Amato had 4 year anniversary here at the village, and next Wednesday, Chris Gardner hit 16 years here with the village. So I'd like to congratulate both of those officers as well.
So it was reported that there was a carjacking in Burr Ridge, and they caught the offenders?
Okay.
Did they? Do you know about that?
No, I'm not aware. I'm aware of the jacking, but I'm not aware of if they caught the offender. Was it a carjacking or was it
Yeah.
an armed robbery? I can't remember which one it was. Was it a carjacking?
Both, I guess. They pulled a gun on a woman getting into her car, and then they took the car, so it was...
I haven't heard if they've arrested the offenders. No, I did hear
Okay.
about the actual crime, though. Yeah. I can find out and let me give you an email if you want me to.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, on to public comments. We had one that I forgot to mention earlier. John had a letter that was received from a Joyce Evers, who is not a resident, but she lives in LaGrange Highlands, and she complimented us on the 65th Street repaving, and she was really impressed that we put a nice stone border on the side of each side of the street. So she said, "Thank you very much."
Can I ask a question, Tom?
Yes.
It's for Andy regarding the leaf pickup. This is our second year we've done it. So having completed our second year, would you do anything differently for our third year? What have we learned?
I think,
Besides, we can't control when the leaves fall.
yeah, I think it really went pretty smoothly this year. It does get more difficult when you have the 60-ton pass than the 4-ton one. But we did a good job, I think, this year. Public Works, they, before the vacuuming, they went out and filmed everything just to make sure everything was in order. And I think, honestly, it went really well. As far as next year, I think the only thing we could do better, and we tried this year, is to get the word out to please rake the leaves not in the street. That's kind of the endless battle that we are fighting. But other than that, I think it went very well.
Is there a count on complaints either from SBC or residents?
There were no real complaints. There were some people who called saying, "Hey, my leaves haven't been picked up," but we try to let everyone know it can take time, and everybody who called got their leaves picked up.
Any idea how long that last load took? Was it a week and a half?
It took
or-
a week and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a way to start the leaf pickup maybe a week later? Because it seems like that first pickup on November 1st, the leaves really weren't falling yet.
It's really kind of, we actually kind of go to the very end that we can anyways, because the dumping sites for leaves and yard waste close in early December. So if we want to do 3 passes, we could I guess we could do like maybe the last 3 weeks of November or something like that.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely. That's something we can talk about at
And then
Public
if the
Works
leaves fall
Committee.
earlier, then everybody's going to be after us. Why don't we pick them up? And
True.
you just don't know. I mean, I had a lot of leaves falling yesterday and today. You can't predict. Just got to do our best based on what we've done in the past. That's why I'm just asking, what do we, what would we do differently for next year, and think about it now while it's still fresh.
And if we change to the last 3 weeks, which I think is a good idea, that first pass may be instead of 4, 6 or 8. It wouldn't be unless something drastically
Right,
changes,
right.
right? So I think that would get something, but
Right, and it give people time to really get their leaves out there.
all right, thank you. John, you had a item?
One item that the chief forgot to tell you was yesterday morning, we had a report of a missing person from Acacia. And so it was an all-hands event for the police department, and from the time I got the initial call, and I'm getting ready to do an all-alert bulletin on our social media and through the Cook County Sheriff's Office, about a 10-minute period, I'm waiting for some more information. The police department found the missing person on 65th Street at Laurel. So good job to the police department, but it literally was, they emptied the police department of all the officers. They were all out looking for this person, and she was found, a person, I believe, with some dementia. So, but they were able to find the person very quickly. So congrats to the police department for that. So thank you.
Yes, thank you to all the staff.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 7:45 PM.
I'll second.
Thank you, Sean and Chris. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. It has been approved. We are adjourned.